Hey, do you remember that awesome You vs. Boo minigame that came as part of Super Mario Bros. Deluxe on the Game Boy Color? In which you raced an actual Boo through a variety of courses? And as you might have noticed already, these courses basically featured on and off switches, as well as dotted blocks. So from the very moment I saw they reappeared in Super Mario Maker 2 or something very similar to them, I knew I had to try and recreate these stages in the actual game. And then, I did! So if you want to check it out for yourself, use the code on the screen right now. I highly recommend doing it before watching the video, just so you can experience it for yourself before I go and spoil everything. And then afterward I'll talk about some of the behind the scenes details. Ready? Well, let's get to it. So as you can see, the goal isn't just to beat Boo, it's actually to defeat him, so we're taking You vs. Boo to the extreme. Now we can actually just chill here for a moment, luckily, and take in the sights, and speaking of which, what's that giant thing right in front of us there? It looks a little bit like a Game Boy, doesn't it? You have a D-pad, the buttons, the speaker grills in the bottom right corner, the power light indicator is on, which is why we can see a Boo on the screen. So let's try checking out the game itself by entering the Game Boy via the cartridge slot. Oh man, there he is! It is on! So we got beat Boo to the end. We even have race music to go along with it. And in order to beat him, we have to activate the blocks to open the course or open the way through the level, and he can hit it too to screw us over. So let's try heading up and avoiding all this nonsense. Alright, here we go. So we're catching up to Boo, we're keeping... Oh, that jerk activated again. Set him down. Alright, we're keeping up with him, which is good. I shouldn't have slowed down there. Yes, we made it through, alright. Now we're already Super Mario, so we can just break through these bricks here. And we're gonna beat him. Yes! And we beat him to the end. So, and we didn't just beat him, we defeated him. Phew, alright, that was a close call. So let's head down the warp pipe. And since we beat Boo, the flagpole is there, and we beat the level. So if you didn't beat it though, you can take the door back to the start and try again. So yeah, that's my You vs. Boo course. It took a long time to set it up just right. So let's go ahead and head into the Maker and check it out for ourselves. And by the way, if you want to check it out for yourself in the game, you can use the code on the screen right now. So here we are in the creator itself, and there's a few things to go over, but before we get to any of this here, I want to head into the sub area where the race itself takes place, because there's one very specific reason I put the race in the sub area as opposed to the main area, and that's the fact that, as you can already see, Boo is facing the wrong way, because whenever you put an enemy on the track, or at least Boo, they always face to the left by default. And this is driving me nuts. It's like, I can't have you race a backwards facing Boo, that just looks silly, because he didn't in the game either, and you know, Boos never fly that direction in any case. So I was trying to rack my brain on how to fix this, and the solution, as it turns out, is to have you warp into an area with Boo just slightly behind it, so that way when you appear, Boo will actually turn around to face the right direction. So I'll actually go ahead and show this to you, and as far as I can tell, this is the only way to really do this. So if you go here, you can see that Boo will actually face to the right because he is just slightly behind the start point by just a single block. This is the only way to do this. So I was really happy when I discovered this, and that meant I put the whole race in the sub area just to solve that one problem. Now the downside to this is that as a result of doing this, I lost the flagpole, being erased to the flagpole, which is why I had to invent a new way of finishing the stage. Because if I had done the flagpole route, I could have just made it so that you had to beat him based on the timer. Could have lowered the time limit, and then I would have just said however long it takes Boo to reach the end. That's how long you have to beat the stage. But I actually ended up thinking this worked out pretty well, where I made it a goal condition to actually kill Boo, which certified that you actually beat him to the end, or got close enough here, which is why you get the star at the end. So yeah, we'll get back to all that in a sec. So let's go ahead and head back to the beginning here, and you may have already noticed a few things. So for one, Boo has wings, of course, and the reason I put wings on the Boo is to make him go faster. Normal Boo on the track was just way too slow, and I want to make the race pretty intense, and maybe it's a little too intense, because even I still lose to this occasionally. Making this video, I had to redo it like 3 or 4 times, but I kept getting my butt kicked by Boo. So yeah, it's pretty tough, especially with wings, or because of the wings. Now, as you may have also noticed, there's a whole contraption up here. Now, if you watched any of my old Mario Maker stages from the first game, you probably may already know why that's there. And that's because in You vs. Boo, one of the key things about the stage is the fact that Boo actually activates the switches himself to, as you just saw right there, to revert it and make you hit the switch. Otherwise, I could just leave it in the same on state constantly. So I was trying to figure out how to replicate that behavior, and in doing so, in my research, I realized that Boo actually doesn't do it randomly. He does it on a timer, every 10 seconds, going by the in-game clock for Super Mario Bros. Deluxe, which is like 4 seconds in real time. So I was trying to figure out how can I replicate that behavior. And what I ended up doing is I ended up putting a whole bunch of bombs on a track right above the starting point. And this is because anything in the same vertical area as you will spawn at the same time. Whereas if I had the bombs over to the right over here, they wouldn't spawn until you got closer, so that would throw off the timing. So I actually had the bombs on this track set exactly 4 seconds apart, so they're activating the timer on the same time frame as in the original game. So as you can see, the way it works is the bombs go along the track. They're triggered by the flame blaster things. I forget what they're called, and then they blow up just as they reach the on and off block. And this worked perfectly for my purposes, where every 4 seconds they hit the block, it turns all the it turns on all the blocks in the stage, and even though they're off screen, shortly after the start of the race, they continue to work just as just as they do right now. Because again, once they spawn on the track, as long as they've spawned on the track, they'll continue moving along it, and all the features continue to function. Whereas it wouldn't have been the case had I moved this entire contraption farther down, it wouldn't have worked until they spawned into place. So that's why I have this contraption set up. Now you may be wondering why I have a PAL block, why I have the thwomp here and another on and off switch. And that's for a slightly different reason, and that's because initially, these bombs take too long to trigger from the get-go, that by the time you reached the maze over here, or the structure, it was too easy to get through because the blocks were already generally in the proper position. You could just run right through without the bomb triggering it in time for it to be much of a hazard. So I added this thwomp in order to, it gets activated as soon as you run underneath it, and that prematurely triggers the entire maze over here, which kind of throws off the whole cycle a little bit. So I did cheat for my, timer specifically, just to make it a little bit harder from the get-go. Alright, let's take a look at the rest of the stage. I don't know how much more there really is to say, so actually a fair amount. So originally I set out to recreate the stages exactly 1-to-1, and for the most part a lot of this actually is. But there are a few problems I ran into. One, if I tried to recreate the stage 1-to-1 with all the on and off switches in the exact same place, I was actually going to run out of switches. I think I could only put 50 of them in the stage, and the stage itself had more of them in the original game. So that told me right away, okay, I can't be 1-to-1 with this, and it actually ended up working out for the better, for a few different reasons. One, in the original game, these on and off switches are actually right by the walls here. Probably because this is the first stage, and they wanted to make it easy, so if you got blocked, let me go ahead and head down here. Like this first one here, they were all in that same position. So if you got blocked, you could just jump right there and fix it. But that ended up, not making it not much of but it ended up making it not much of a challenge. So I offset them a little bit. So when you get blocked, you have to run backwards now, activate it, and then before heading forward. So yeah, I played around with some of the timing there to give you to make it a little bit more difficult. I kept the upper row though about the same because that row was a little bit harder to stay in. So I'm like, I'll reward you if you manage to stay in there. You can activate the block instantly to get on through. So continuing on, let's see. Oh, so here's something else. So again, I was gonna originally recreate just each stage one by one, but again, I realized that wouldn't work, and I thought, you know what, I don't really want to make them all one by one anyway, so it'd be cooler if I just took a bunch of elements from different stages and put it all into one stage. Now, of course, I can't split this up into multiple regions, and which is why I recreated the sub area, or the underground area, from that game, from World 1-2, I think, because I can't actually have a sub-area without screwing up the entire race. So I had you climb up this giant structure and make it look like you're actually entering underground. And then here, this is actually pretty faithful to the original game as well, with the on and off switches in roughly the same place. I might have changed it a little bit. And then you can race through these multiple routes, with these higher and lower route as you're racing the Boo, who's continuing along above. So continuing on, I have an element from, I believe it's 1-3, it's probably later actually, but yeah, this element right here, I grabbed a small section from one of the later stages. I tweaked it a little bit, I added, I think bricks you have to break through to get through, or I changed something about this, I forget exactly what. But yeah, so I took that element from another stage, and then I returned to World 1-1 with this element here, to just make it a little bit easier at the end. Originally this part, was at the very end, right before the goal, but it slowed things down just a little bit too much. So I wanted to give you one last stretch as you race up the ending, staircase to the star, so you can grab it and kill Boo. So that's why I had to figure out, I'm like, well, with the goal condition being to kill Boo now, because I don't have a flagpole, how are you going to kill him? And of course, one of the few ways to do so is with a star. Now, originally I only had star on the claw here, but I realized because you're able to... Actually, let me show you this real quick. Ooh, and I'm stuck in a brick. Come, let me out. Oh, that's right, it's not going to work at all, so hold on. Because my timer doesn't work over here since it hasn't been activated. But because if you fail the race, you're actually able to redo it by going through the door, which resets you back to the right side of the Game Boy. You can just climb right back up to the start. I realized there was a problem, and that's the fact that the star doesn't come back. So what I ended up doing is, as I think I may have already saw, so I'm really tired by the way, so if I'm rambling at all, I apologize for that. It's been some late nights here. Come on, Mario, go in the freaking... Oh, that's right, I have to grab him here. So I'm getting used to this interface with the controller. That's why I ended up adding safety stars in the warp pipe there, just so in case, the star's already gone and you failed, you can grab one. Well, that took forever to explain, I'm sorry. And then also, same thing with the mushroom here. Normally you can get the mushroom in the block right there, but they're also in the mushroom in case you already activated the block, because you do need a mushroom to get this through this wall. Now, interestingly, this mushroom's kind of a pain to get to because of the springs. Here, which I can show you right now. It just takes a little while to get over there. You need to time your jump right, and then getting the mushroom as it's bouncing around. It can all be a little bit tricky, which is why it's actually easier to grab a mushroom earlier on the course. So I like the reward that if you went for a mushroom earlier, instead of waiting until the last minute, it actually worked out to your benefit. And yeah, I think that's actually pretty much it. I covered most of the main details in a very roundabout way. Yeah, so I guess I haven't really talked about, having a track at all for the Boo. That was really the only way to do this race, is having Boo on a literal track, going through it to the very end. So again, I try to keep it as faithful as possible while playing with it occasionally, both to make it play better and also to bring in more elements from you versus Boo, which I think ended up working pretty well. Oh, and I guess I should talk about the Game Boy real quick. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but I love, again, repurposing objects for these thematic elements. So I had the red coins as buttons, even though it means a red coin counter appears in the stage, but you don't need them. And then also, the on and off block is too perfect for this, because there's a literal power light on the Game Boy itself that indicates power is on. Now, I did have a slight moment where I was debating whether to use a power light or the switch for the power light or the actual switch on top of the Game Boy, but I realized it just looked better for the light itself, and I just ignored having the switch at all on top of the Game Boy, the power switch. Because, the block was red, it says on, it was too perfect for the light. And then I am using the stop scroll function, as you can see, with the wall there, to keep the screen contained to that area. And I do it at the end here as well, so the entire ending section is all on a single screen, which is something I really like doing. If I can get over there. Oh, well, I'm outside it now, but you get my point. Yeah, there we go, now I can do it. So yeah, I like how you can just see everything all at once. So there you have it. That is my You vs. Boo stage. Probably poorly explained in a very roundabout way because I'm exhausted, but hopefully you enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure to give it a try yourself by using the code on the screen right now. I had a lot of fun making it. I hope you had a lot of fun playing it. I want to see if you can get a world record even for beating the stage. I forgot that's a thing. That's pretty cool now that people can actually compete in my stage to try and get the best time. Alright, I'm about done here, so thank you for watching, and we'll catch you later. Bye.